Hello.
Hello.
You okay?
Hello.
Hi, Lillian. You okay?
Yeah, thanks.
Good. Hi, Chris. Just give it a minute or two. It's a little bit early. I think I'm down as talk on here, aren't I? Yeah.
Yeah, you
Can
are.
anybody see me?
Sorry?
This is Barbara. Can anybody see me?
No. Are you down as Phil M?
Yeah, I'm down as Phil M. I'm on this
Oh, is
laptop.
that Barbara?
Yes, afraid so. Yeah. And I'm looking, I've got a black box with his name. He's gone out and I don't know what to do to get myself to.
So,
I was on view before, but.
If you look at the bottom left-hand side of your
Right.
screen, there should be something saying mute and then stop video, or it might say start video. If you press the video one, that should turn your camera on.
Morning.
Yay! I can see you. Oh, you're off again.
Hi.
Morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This is my first Patreon.
All right.
Hello, Sylvia.
Morning.
Hello.
Oh God, the pressure's on. This is the first time
I
I've
can see
ever held
myself.
a Zoom.
But that's better.
Oh yeah, Phil.
Oh, that's fine, isn't it?
Isn't
Yeah.
it cold?
Good turnout. It is cold, isn't it? I had my little heat.
Cold, yeah. Yeah.
Don't want to put the
Yeah.
actual heating on yet to see
No.
too
I
early.
put it on yesterday morning. I put it on to come on in the morning, but not today.
No.
I don't know what I've done there.
Are you okay there, Barbara? We can still
Don't worry about me. I'll struggle. There's not enough time to compensate me.
Oh, good Barbara. Well, we'll start. It's just turned 10 o'clock. If anybody else joins us, that's fine. But yeah, we'll kick off because we've only got an hour, and obviously it's quite a big subject we're talking about today. But just wanted to give you all an overview, really, of two aspects of the art world, I guess, the alla prima and en plein air sort of processes, if you like. I just thought it'd be quite nice to go. I know for some of you, it's going back to basics, but I think every so often we all need that just to have a little reminder of what the basics are. When we are in class at John Archer Hall, but also the Urban Sketches, we're working alla prima in effect. Even if you're not working with oil paints, you're still producing a paintwork in one sitting, an artwork in one sitting. And there are certain tips and tricks and, as I say, things you already know, but you might need reminding of that I thought might be quite useful today. I've put together a little set of videos actually for us to watch together, and then obviously we can comment on them. The first one is an American artist who's talking about his alla prima method. Now he is working in a studio, not en plein air, but there are little nuggets throughout the video of advice that I think will be useful for us all, me included. So we'll watch that, and then after that we'll just see a few setups, what equipment people use, what considerations you need to take into account when you're going outside to do any artworks. But also, even if you're working in a studio, it's quite handy to know that little gadgets and things exist, you know, so you can decide whether they'll be useful to you or not. And if we've got time, I've got a video at the end where a gentleman comes into Liverpool actually and does an en plein air oil painting down on the front. So that might be quite nice to see. Yeah, so I'll just work out if I can share my screen. And what do I need? Right, hang on a minute. I need to open that. There. So can everybody see something saying alla prima and non plein air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right. So I'll press play and hopefully you'll be able to hear it too. If you can't, shout up and we'll say it. So as I say, this first video, it's a guy called Michael John Nolan. He's American. He's a little bit annoying actually, but you listen to what he's saying rather than how he's saying it.
After watching Trump last night, he can't be that annoying.
Embarrassing, wasn't it, for him? Crikey. Yeah, and the video's a little bit, the sound's fine, but the actual video's a little bit jerky. So again, try to sort of listen rather than just watch. But just to say, I've tried to edit out all the boring bits, but he's, when we start the video, he's actually put down his first ground on his canvas. He's done like an imprimatura layer, which is the transparent toned ground that you'll have seen Tok do this when he was doing his exhibition pieces for 5, where he puts a tone ground down and then wipes out the highlights. And so just bear in mind, when we start, that's the stage is at in the painting. So let's get going.
Keep your initial sketch loose with no details, focusing on basic shapes. The easiest way to capture basic shapes is to define the light and the shadow. Again, just simply think of what is being illuminated and what is not in direct illumination. Then outline those contours of light and shadow. I prefer to draw with a 1/4 inch medium-sized filbert. It's generally big enough to block in all those shapes, and yet it's just too large to become immediately intoxicated with all those details. Draw lightly with the paint. This allows you to truly search and explore the surface, becoming aware of proportions and values. Plus, you always want to keep your initial painting thin, so you're not fighting the application of paint in the additional layers. Focus on the largest shapes first, defining the ratios, acknowledging those angles. Always draw through your forms, measuring those relationships, forcing the eye to truly see what's there. The beauty with alla prima is that the drawing evolves with the construction of the painting. They are not separate. So keep the initial drawing super simple and loose to allow for those continuous reactions and redefinitions. Once the contours of light and shadow are blocked in, I like to remove with a cotton rag any additional buildup of the mid-tone wash in the light shapes so that it doesn't muddy up my future colors, allowing for clear indication. Remember, forms and shapes dictate details and edges. Now on to the blocking in stage. I'll be using a 1/2 inch flat brush to block in or apply all the general large shapes of our colors. To achieve a visual balance and the painterly expression of the alla prima, you must build the whole image up at once. That's why we block in the largest shapes first, and then we work to the smaller shapes and then to the details. Remember, in alla prima painting, we are working wet on wet. Thus, our blocking in layer will mix into your initial underdrawing layer. So it is best practice to keep the initial underdrawing layer very thin. Because the painting is made while everything is wet, you have constant flexibility to react and redefine the forms and structures as you apply the color. Meaning the painting and the drawing are now synonymous. Every painting is different, and every painting requires a slightly different process.
Sorry, I know he's going really fast here. Does anybody want to sort of discuss anything at this stage, or are you okay with the speed of it?
Yeah.
I know a lot of us don't work in oils and we're more acrylics. But again, as Tok showed us, a lot of these processes can be used with acrylics as well, with acrylics and acrylic medium. So I think it's still quite an interesting piece of work to watch. Okay, we'll carry on.
But I typically start with my midtones and then work toward my darks and lights at the same time. However, if I haven't pre-mixed my palette, which we've already done, with a range of darks, I would start applying the darker values first. When applying my values, I loosely define the transitions of those values like a topographical map. I do not want to overblend at this stage and want to keep clear separations of my value transitions. I try to stay away from my highlights until I build up all of my midtones Or I am continuously reworking the same areas over and over again, and I don't see anything new. But then I quickly move back to my darker values. If you are struggling with any part of a painting, the drawing, the proportions, the values, and the mixing of the colors, almost all the time it is because you haven't put your darks in yet. Or it's because your darks truly don't match what you're actually seeing. While it may seem unrelated, having a proper value range with solid darks allows you way more ease and accuracy in assessing colors and mixing them much more effectively. The hue and saturation might initially define a color's identity, but remember, colors are values too. Understanding and then defining the proper lightness and darkness of a color effortlessly allows for the true assessment of that hue and saturation. Put simply, if you are struggling mixing color, put your dark values in. As I work from the largest shapes to the smallest shapes, I adjust the size of my brush to what I need, still always using the biggest brush that I can within that given space. The larger the brush, the more effective the application is of the color, and the more confident it feels. Using smaller or tiny brushes to scrub in large areas ruins the brushes, but also it muddies your colors and visually exhausts the surface of your painting. In the blocking in stage, how much paint should you initially apply? A lot of this is artistic preference, but you will want to apply enough to cover the surface fairly opaquely, and so that you can canvas mix future layers on top, i.e. blending. But you do not want to apply it so heavy that all future layers become so muddy and uncontrollable. Understanding how much paint to put on when you initially apply comes with time and practice. But if you find yourself scrubbing too little paint on your first pass, I would wager you simply didn't mix yourself enough of the color that you needed. So like I mentioned before, mix a little bit more than what you think you'll need. That way you can be much more liberal with the application rather than worrying about running out of that specific color. How do you know when you've blocked in enough of the painting and you can really start developing the image? This is different for all artists, but for me it's usually when the majority of the surface has become unveiled, or when I can finally see the painting, meaning I have references for light to dark, warm to cool, I have an established foreground to background, and I have enough of the beginnings of the forms developing in front of me. Warm to cool, I have an established foreground to background, and I have enough of the beginnings of the forms developing in front of me. When it starts to feel right, now I can start to render and develop the smallest shapes. Now remember, in a true alla prima painting, our biggest adversary is time. From our first stroke of color on the canvas, the surface began to dry on us. So the quickened completion of the image may feel like a race or a sprint, but you will want to slow down. Be intentional. Be deliberate. Be aggressive, form, adhering to the classical order of light. As I've already stated a few times, within our earlier larger shapes, pursue the smaller shapes and then resolve the smaller shapes within inside of that. The details will just start to emerge, and when they do, capture them. To ensure you do not overwork your image, take a step back from your painting every now and then to see how everything is optically blending together. That usually prevents me from over-blending away all of my details and form. Honestly, everything that's involved in how to finish an oil painting is really a topic unto itself. Creating an image is creating a series of hierarchies. A hierarchy of depth, a hierarchy of value, and a hierarchy of visual clarity. And of course, to help achieve this, you will want to use a variety of brushes to fit the individual details, marks, edges, shapes that you are constructing. Ultimately, to create a surface that is visually interesting and engaging. Every painting's conclusion differs based on the artist, their style, the subject, and the methodology, which leads us back, full circle, to the alla prima method. The alla prima technique can be whatever you want it to be, and it can look any way that you want it to look. Traditionally, alla prima is all about energy, expression, life, and vitality, the exaggeration of color, and fluid, effortless mark making. The artists of the Impressionist movement clearly defined the definitive idea of what alla prima can and maybe should be, focused on the creation in the moment, layered with spontaneity, and defined with a purposeful sense of economy to create that moment. One that is seemingly not overdeveloped, and one that creates, you guessed it, the impression. So as you learn to finish your oil paintings within this method, I would recommend looking toward the inspiration of the Impressionists, exploring your colors and color relationships, pushing your value ranges, playing with your edges and allowing them to dance, and most of all, experimenting with your strokes or mark making, creating wonderful textures. The alla prima method really resonates with me. It is completely able to shed my nature of procrastination by simply the fact that I just don't have the time to wait for the layers to dry. Nevertheless, in the end, because of its built-in time frame, forcing the finish, the alla prima method doesn't allow me to overthink or agonize over decisions, keeping me in the moment. Truthfully, I believe it allows for the most honesty in painting. And it seemingly conjures my internal President Kennedy. Anyway, what I meant, and I will no longer sugarcoat, this is hard because there's nowhere to hide. So do know that this takes a little bit of time and some effort to gain a competency. But that sure doesn't mean that you won't fall in love during that journey and amass countless little victories. So good luck to everyone, and allow yourself the grace to create, which reminds me of what a great artist and even better friend once told me. Even a bad day painting is still a great day. You should really take your own advice, Michael. Be deliberate. Okay, Hermes, I believe the painting is almost done. Just one more highlight. There, that should do it. Well, another oil paint alla prima study in the books.
Okay, so as I say, it was a little bit annoying, but hopefully you got some little nuggets through that. Every time I see that, I see something different. I think, well, his overarching message of this, be intentional and be deliberate, was quite a valuable one. What did you guys think?
I think having all the colours mixed ready on his palette, you know, that variation of tone, and having enough of the paint, like he said,
Yeah,
helps, doesn't it?
oh, absolutely. I mean, on the close-ups, you could see how thick the paint was that he was applying. And obviously, he has to do that because you don't want the paint below to mix through too much. You have to be quite thick with your application. But looking at the screen now, you can see how cohesive that those brush marks look. I mean, you know,
it's really effective, isn't it? I mean, it's a piece of sculpture, isn't it? I mean, it just looks fantastic.
Yeah, very, very 3D.
Yeah, amazing.
And if I thought it was really interesting as well earlier on when he was talking about how to get the colours right, you need to have your darks in.
Yeah.
And that's something I constantly have to teach myself. It's I seem to shy away from putting a really dark in, but it makes the painting sing almost.
Yeah, it brings it out, doesn't it? Yeah,
it helps with getting your other tones right. Yeah, but mixing enough paints. Again, I think that's something everybody needs to hear every so often. You do have to mix slightly more than you think you need, so that you don't become too stingy with it. Because as soon as you start to try and, you know, drag your dry brush along, you know, the energy of the painting disappears. And with alla prima, you would end up over mixing the layers beneath.
Does this only work with oil? I'm just about to say that.
Yeah, no, I was sort of mentioning earlier that if you remember back to the Rose Lane days when we did a painting module, and Tok was using acrylics in a very similar way to this, and he was using an acrylic medium to put that first toned ground on and wiping off, and then putting a sort of an alla prima layer on top. I don't know whether you remember that. Oil's definitely easier to work with because it stays wet for longer. But you can do this with acrylics. To some extent, you can also do it with gouache, for example, although you don't get the luminosity with gouache. It's a very opaque medium. So yeah, the main point is that a lot of those facts and tips you can apply to acrylic painting, but you'd have to use an acrylic medium to be able to achieve it.
Is that like in a medium to slow down the drying process?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's called flow medium. Trying to see if I've got.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Got some of that.
Flow
I
medium.
think I've got some somewhere. Yeah. I think I
Yeah.
have.
As I say,
I use it a lot now because it's been warm this summer and acrylic paint dries quickly.
Absolutely, yeah. Even with a stay wet palette, because then you end up watering your colours down too much. So if you can use a flow medium instead, the vibrancy of the colour. Yeah, absolutely. Just trying to see if I've written anything else down. Don't overblend.
It's a shame that we didn't see how he did the torso. You know, how he got that. It's almost like a pearly effect, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we did. He did show us when he was using those really big brush marks on the chest. We saw him do the highlights, didn't we?
All right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. So, you know, somebody said it was like sculpture in itself, and
it is
exactly what it is. Painting is in this way is a form of sculpturing, really.
He didn't say what colours he used, did he?
No, he didn't. And in the original video, he doesn't talk about, you know, his palette. I mean, you can see on there that you know, he's just got it looks like a very standard palette. You know, it's not limited at all, is it? So yeah, I suppose. I mean, because it's all varying shades of grey and warm greys, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, I was going to talk about, yeah, that's right. He mentioned in the video about the Impressionists, and everybody sort of associates Alla Prima with the Impressionists. But actually, it goes back a lot further than that. Like the first people to use the first person really to use, I don't know whether you can see this actually because it only shares one screen, but back in the turn of the 16th and 17th centuries, Alla Prima was being used by studio artists, the most famous of which is Frans Hals, the artist. And if you have a look at his work, it's very painterly, very loose.
I love his stuff.
Yeah,
I love it.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that's the infancy of Impressionism. It's where it all started, really. And then obviously the Impressionists, with their tubes of paint, went out and into the open air, on plein air, and started their movement. So I'll show you another video now. Now this is. We're sort of moving towards the on plein air aspect. I wanted to show you this little video by a lady called Elizabeth Zimmer. Again, it's a YouTube video. She just takes a couple of minutes to talk about her kit when she's going out outside to draw and paint. Now she uses watercolor. It looks like a very similar kit set up to an urban sketcher actually, but I think she's more of a landscape artist. So and I just quite like, she's been quite inventive. She's sort of made things to fit in a hand so she can hold everything with one hand. So I'll show you that and see what you think.
Or on the board.
So this guy I made out of mat board. 2 pieces that are held together with some vinyl. It goes through. I will use my clips. Clip this in. Now my paper, my sketchbook is nice and flat. And then I go through and I will put on my water cups right here. Slide those guys.
Go full screen.
I need it on full screen.
And then I will put on with my rubber bands, my little plein air palette.
That's work. So,
And then I'll grab my paper towels.
Thanks.
you just off it.
Oh, no, it's
And now I am ready to paint one-handed.
Yeah, I just thought that was quite a nice little video to show you what you can actually go outdoors with. And I really like the little thing that she's made, you know, handmade, that, I don't even know what it's called, the sort of structure that she put the palette on, just with rubber bands and clips, and you don't need any special expensive equipment.
Good.
So, and plus that's watercolour, which is probably more akin to the type of things that we go out and draw with, especially the urban sketchers amongst us.
Looked a bit fiddly though, didn't it?
Yeah, she was a bit ham-fisted, wasn't she?
Yeah.
I would be even more ham-fisted than that.
Yeah, and me, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose when you're filming yourself, you're sort of very conscious, and yeah. But yeah,
I
yeah.
suspect if we did it, it would fall apart.
Yes.
I did think the thing that she'd made, that sort of frame thing, she could have longer sections that go right down into the sketchbook, because then she wouldn't, you need to grab it so much, it'd be more stable, wouldn't it? But yeah, as I say, I put that in there. It's a bit of an indulgement because I just love little things like that and kits things. So yeah, now the next video I've got, it's similar in the fact that it's talking about some an on-plein air artist's equipment that they take out with them. I don't know if you've ever come across this lady before. She's called Claire Bowen. She's a marine artist, actually. She's based down in Cornwall, and her videos are just quite relaxing to watch. She films herself while she's outdoors making her art, and in this particular video, she's just talking us through her kit. So literally the bag that she carries with her to her paintings. She's works in oils. So, but again, most of the stuff she's telling us is just about the practicalities of on-plein air painting, what you need to think about, and a lot of it you can transpose onto acrylic if you want. So I'll press play. If anybody wants to butt in and speak, just shout and I can pause it and we'll have a chat. So
I just want to know what her name is.
Oh, sorry, Claire Bowen. So it's Bowen. I will write all this down and put it in the post afterwards, but you'll see her name because she's quite she's branded herself. She's obviously a full-time artist making lots of money out of it, hopefully. So yeah, you'll see her. Okay.
So first of all, I've got my palette, my wet painting carrier. It's called a Raymar, and that's very useful to carry the wet paintings home. This one is my Manfrotto tripod. It's called the Be Free, and I think it's carbon, so it makes it quite light. I've got a heavier version for the winter in case it's windy. And this is called a palette garage, this thing here. And let me show you inside. So I haven't got any paint on there at the moment, but it's a way of not carrying all my paints out with me when I'm painting outside, so it keeps the weight down. So you can buy them in America and online, but sadly they don't ship to the UK anymore, which is a disappointing. So I'm going to lay out everything that I've got in my bag on here so you can see what I've got. I'll put that in. Right, so I've got 3 main compartments, and you can see this is I'll talk about the bag first. Oh, husband just told me to take the cap off. Right out, painting cap, there we go. All right, so this is a laptop bag, and now the beauty of this bag is that it has, not only does it have the backpack straps, but it also converts into wheels, which is so useful when you don't want to carry it everywhere. You can wheel it about, which I find just absolutely amazing. It saves so you're not too tired when you arrive to paint. Now the main compartment holds my pochade very nicely. It's an open box end, and I have done a video on this, so if you wanted to have a look on my channel, I've got more about it in depth, but just today it's a 11 by 14 size.
Thanks.
It's an American make, got a couple of tables in there, and a hook for the tabs. So that works nicely, and the fact it fits in the bag. I also have quite a nice selection of boards. So I'd like at least 10 with me, different shapes, ready to go. And then I think they're MDF, and I think they're 2.5 mil, my ones. There is a little sketchbook, always useful. It's a Sea White of Brighton, mine, softy one. These are quite good. I don't know if you've come across these before. They're called Tombow. And the good thing about it is that they're brush end and a detail end. But I have the 3 kind of tonal values, and it makes me look at a scene in a tonal way, not like just a drawing way, but a tonal way, so it helps me prepare for a painting. So that's what I do, a little sketch if needed, and just a soft paint. Something else that's very useful is my viewfinder. When I first began, I used a viewfinder all the time because I found that it was such a big subject out there, I couldn't deal with it. So this helped make it smaller and helped me be able to translate what was there onto my board. So that's that pocket. The next one, I always carry water, cold water with me, and a hot drink like peppermint tea. Just because quite often you're cold when you're painting because you're standing still. And then here's my brush roll. So this is a bamboo brush roll from Rosemary & Co, which is a brush company. And I'm just going to open this up so you can see it better. Hang on. So the nice thing about this brush roll is that it stays rigid. So when I'm painting out there, and this is, say, my leg of my tripod, I can put it like that and it stays upright, so it doesn't get mucky or anything, which is really cool. And my brushes are mainly Rosemary & Co. I really like this make. It's good quality, not expensive. It's called a ultimate short. Well, the ultimate is the type of the brush, and it's a short flat, so I quite like short flats. They're my favourites. It's surprising how worn they get. You know, it's the same, almost the same one, and it goes on the corners. So, and then I also use a Pro Art sterling make, and these are soft and good for detail. So those are the 2 main things I use, and then different shapes, but mainly short flats are my favourites. I hope that's helpful. Okay, so kind of like materially things. I got a big sun hat, which is useful if, you know, sometimes it's not good just to have a front peak, you need a whole big one. One glove. I use 2 gloves in the winter and 1 in the summer. because my left hand, which is my non-painting hand, gets cold sometimes when I'm holding. So I always take a one glove with me in the summer, and then I've got my pinny, painting pinny. This is what's that called? Thank you, Turps. I hold my Turps in here, so I don't use any other medium. I just use Turps to thin the paint in the beginning. And I just open that up for you. There we go. So it's got a rubber seal, so it does seal it very well. I have had a couple of disasters in my bag before where it's leaked, so I always now have a bag to protect it, and I have a little bit of tissue in there in case it does leak. And this is a useful plastic bag to hold any like dirties in there, that you've used, rags or anything, so it doesn't get everywhere. These are 2 little clips, and it's just some kitchen towel, and it goes on the side of my pochard on one of my tables, so I can kind of do that with my brush if I need to wipe it. Okay. And half a hanky for a rag in case I want to wipe out anything on my board that I'm working on. So in my compartment here, I always take masking tape. It's useful. You never know when you're going to need it, whether you're going to, take something like a board or, anything. It's just really practical. I use it quite a lot. I always carry a spare white, although I've got my palette garage full of my paints. You use white more, so will I do. So I have that in case. And this is my edge. Some people use the side of a board to make an edge, but this is, it's smaller, it's easier for me. Excuse me. And it's like a lucky dip. Okay, let me get the other one. So this is 2 very, I can barely open them, very strong clips. I think I got them on Amazon. And I use these for a panoramic board, so a bigger version of this. And because it, my pochard doesn't allow for very wide, I can then attach it with these, which is beautiful as well. That's it in there. And then just my front one. This is it's a palette knife, and it's a number 81. And RGM, I think it is, the make. And I use it for mixing my colours before I paint, oil paint. They can snap, but they last for ages. So I always carry a spare if I'm traveling, but otherwise, yeah, this is very good. Sun cream, factor 50. It's a kid's one, so it's small, which is useful and light. My camera, just a spare in case I don't want to use the phone or I'm doing something for it. It's good to have a little camera. And if you come here, so I always also have a piece of what do you call that, rope or nylon or whatever, and that can attach onto my tripod. If it's windy or I want to tie it something, I can tie it round and it just protects it. So I always carry that as well. So I'm just going to check my notes to make sure I wrote out my notes just so I've got everything. I've told you everything. Oh, I had forgotten. So there is a little compartment up here, and it is my business cards. So I always have business cards. Antihistamines. You never know when you're going to get caught with hay fever in painting. And a hair clip and money for parking. So annoying if you can't park and you're desperate to paint. I haven't got it with me, but I always have a snack as well, just in case, because I do get hungry. Anything else? Mr. B, have I forgotten anything? No? I hope this is helpful. So I've gone through just about all the equipment that I take with me. And
yeah, sorry, I know that was quite a long video, but and she's an oil painter, so there's some things there that wouldn't happen, but there's a lot that it would be quite useful.
I'm surprised she hasn't got bigger muscles. Carrying all that stuff in her pack. I was looking at her arms and thought, she do bodybuilding as well?
I wonder what her
all that
luggage is like when she goes away on holiday. I wonder what her luggage is like.
Yeah.
I
always take too much.
She didn't mention what sort of seat she uses.
Oh no, she didn't. You're right.
Whether it was a tripod or, you know.
No, she didn't.
The most useful thing I got out of all of that I thought, oh yes, I'll use that, was the viewfinder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That cardboard viewfinder.
That was very useful.
You're not going to carry all that paraphernalia with you. You're going to select what you want.
Well, I was thinking it was similar to what I do when I'm preparing to come to class on a Monday. I'm like, oh, I might need that,
Yeah.
Be a similar size to that. But there were some little again, it's mainly for outside painting, on plein air painting. So just things like sun cream, for example, antihistamines, you know.
Yeah.
Hair clip.
What else did you say with the antihistamine? There was something else.
Sorry, say that again.
Antihistamine.
Pardon?
Business cards.
No, there was something else, a cream or something.
Antihistamine tablets.
Yeah, it was. I think she had things like a hair clip and
and string.
Drink.
I didn't understand what that paint garage thing she showed in the first place. Like a round tube with
the brush
all the
thing.
paint.
Yeah, but what on earth is that?
She shot the paint into the middle of the L shape, and then it's touched by the sides because it's the size.
The paint palettes, isn't it?
Tube.
Yeah, she said it's for the palette, didn't she?
Yeah.
But then she said you can't get it. It's American and they don't ship to England.
But you know what? It's so easy to make yourself.
But what do you
don't even know what it is.
No,
I don't understand what it is.
It's just a container for the paint.
Like a door knob, like something that you would find in B&Q, and a piece of plastic tubing.
So what do you put in it then?
Yeah, put the paint in, all the paint colours that you'll need. Just squirt them into in this part of it.
So it's a big jumble. All your paint is a big.
Yeah, but you've got to remember she's working with oil paint, which stays where it is. It's very viscous.
If you have a runny one, it might
with acrylics, because your acrylics would dry out. You'd have sort of an equivalent, but a stay wet version. But it'd be really easy to make something. Like I was just showing you, I've got this, it's a brush holder, but you could easily turn this into a paint garage by just putting an L-shaped piece of whatever, metal or whatever.
Oh, I see.
Do acrylics, you could just do a strip with the layer of damp cloth and then your kitchen paper or whatever.
Good idea.
Again, but with oil paints, they do tend to stay workable for a long time. They don't mix unless you physically mix them. They won't mix. So and she mentioned terps as well. She had this terps in. Again, if you're using acrylics, you wouldn't need that. You only need water. But having a bag with you to get all your dirty tissues and everything together, again, that's something I would not think about until I was out.
Like a rubbish bag, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had one with me at the rooftop, in fact. Thank goodness, because I had a spillage.
Yeah, that's true. You've got to plan for for things going wrong as well. So getting rags or kitchen roll and
the other thing I had with me, and Barbara will have seen this, was I've just bought those Tombow pens because I'd seen the free video, and so I put them onto a Memorize.
Oh, that was very good.
a memorized card that you use for.
Ah,
It was my son's actually using for
It only is a very
revision.
small one.
Yeah, but
I don't know what you're talking about, so you'll have to show us.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Don't know
share
what a
that.
memory card you mean.
Do you know when you're revising? They're called revision cards.
Oh, those.
Oh,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
the make is memorized, so they're quite
Ah.
small. And I just put the different pens and their numbers and
It's
whether
flip
they were
over-
warm or cool.
A flip over chart with rings so you can flip it over.
Yeah, but like a miniature one. So
Yeah,
There's
it's
one
very
ring and one
tiny,
strip.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
Oh,
if I
you?
can think where it is. If anyone's seen my boot, it's boot of my car.
Just take a photo of it and put it on the group.
Yeah.
I lost a set of pencils in the tin, if anyone sees them.
Oh, did you?
Was that a
With
fact?
what type of pencils with the colour?
Pastels.
I've
Yes.
got them. I've got them. 'Cause I thought, why have I got two? So there we are.
But give them back.
Messing up now.
The other thing I would include, because there was a lot there, but I did an online cheese and wine art group last night. We were doing Monet. And actually what you've said today has explained a lot of what was happening last night, putting the dogs down first. And I didn't fully appreciate it till now. But we use a mini, a mini roller that you can use in the house for laying down that background.
Oh, yeah. That's a good
Is
idea.
that for oil?
No acrylic.
Oh.
So instead of a big
Good idea.
brush, if you have a mini roller, it just gets the layer down quickly.
Yeah, fast as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing
I
I
must
always
admit, sorry, Paul used to do that. Demos at Rose Lane. He'd always start off with all the dark shadows. Put them or down on first. I think I've got a few little videos.
Yeah, he did.
Another thing I always have with me, maybe it's not very environmentally friendly, are baby wipes.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I've got those, yeah. You can
yeah.
get
Yeah, they really clean your hands, don't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I use baby wipes all the time. They're so
Yeah.
useful.
They take the paint off your hands, and yeah, it's good.
So, Pauline, you were talking about viewfinders earlier.
Well, she mentioned one, and I thought that's great.
I've got a photo of this at the end of the presentation, but we might run out of time, so we might not be able to watch the next.
I've got one of them.
Show you this.
No, I haven't got one.
I've not got one, no.
Not really
I keep
seen that.
forgetting to use it.
Yeah, it's so useful. This is called a view capture, and it's patented. I think an American lady invented it. But it's not just you think, oh yeah, very useful.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
Do it. So you see the colour of it, the grey.
Yeah.
That's actually a mid-tone. So just the colour of it means that you can judge your values. You see the whole, that means you can isolate colours to match them.
Yeah, that's better than mine.
As I say, it's patented.
Where'd you buy them?
I got this just from Amazon, but you can get them. I think they stock them in normal art shops.
Yeah, just got
What's it called? The view capture.
View capture. I've dug out the instruction book so you could see it actually. So I don't know whether is that the right way for you or is it backwards? So view capture.
No, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
It's made by the Colour Wheel Company. Because they've patented it, you won't get the same thing anywhere else. It's their design, and but it is really, really useful. I took it with me when I was on Landscape Artist of the Year, and they were really interested in it and were filming me using it. And I don't know if they'll make the final edit, but
that's good.
surprised more people don't have them really. But you can make your own. I had an old one that I used to use that I made by myself, which was this thing.
That's good.
Which sort of works really well. But this you won't be able to see on the screen. This has got little ratios written on it, so I can put it to a certain setting and know that that's the ratio of my canvas.
Oh, right.
That's much better than mine.
Very clever.
Really useful piece of kit. I do recommend it. And not just for on plein air, you can use it inside, you use it anywhere. Photographers obviously can use it too. Yeah, it is a good piece of kit. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to show you was this thing. Again, this is just grey, and it's not a mid-tone or anything. It's just a grey. Looks very basic, but it's quite satisfying to hold actually. But it's an edge tool. It's made out of rubber. It's really
What is it? An edge tool?
I use it as an edger. Yeah, I think it is.
And it's rubber.
Yeah, it's called Catalyst, and I'll write all this down and get it on the.
Yeah, write it all down.
So Andrea, can you paint along that?
Yeah.
You know, can you get like lines along it?
Yeah, obviously the edges, there's only that much, and then there's this much here.
Yeah.
Actually really useful because you just paint and you just.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, get one of them.
It's not too heavy, and just a
We'll
really.
be buying stuff.
So can you get that anywhere?
Again, I'm terrible. I used Amazon again for this.
What's it actually called? What's the proper name?
Edge tool.
I can't remember what I put in the search box. I saw somebody on TV using it, and I thought, oh,
Yeah.
God, that's great. And I was searching. I think I put something like paint edge tool, or I'll find it and I'll post it.
You just go into artist accessories, couldn't you?
I don't think it's designed particularly for artists. I think it's but I've seen
It's a folding paper.
Sorry.
I think the round.
Is it a folding paper?
Oh, sorry, I just
paper.
Can you use it for folding paper?
Oh, yeah, you probably could, but I don't think the edge is sharp enough, really. You need a longer
I'm
edge.
going to look for one of them.
I'll bring it in next time I come into the class.
Okay.
Fridays, we'll see. We can see it.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
The Tuesday class.
Yeah. Yeah, that starts next week.
Incidentally, what do we need to bring to the Tuesday class, Andrea?
Just your watercolours, obviously, and something to paint on. I'll
Okay.
put a few bits with me, so don't panic too much. It's the first session, and we'll just play about really, and do some basic techniques. And
What do we need for Friday?
Now Friday, because I'm covering Elsa's class, and I believe she normally works with acrylic, does she? So a bit.
Yeah.
Up to you what you bring. We're going to be working on this painting, which is a Manet still life.
Oh yes, yeah.
And just because I didn't want to waste too much time with the drawing aspect, I've done some outlines for people to copy, so that'll simplify and speed up the first stage, so we can get.
Paul used to do that.
Okay, so. You'll be able to use whatever you like. I think acrylic's probably going to be easier because Manet was an oil painter, and so, you know, just to get the shapes and everything. But you could do this in watercolour if you desperately wanted to. But yeah, if you can bring along your acrylics, that would be great.
Okay. Elsie used to grid up.
Did she? Yeah, we can do that. We can either grid up or side. You know, we'll just sort of go through whichever people prefer. You can even trace. I mean, it wouldn't be very easy, but you know, if we on the outline paper I just showed you, if you put loads of graphite on the back, put it onto your canvas, and then press down, you can actually trace it that way if you wanted. But we'll talk about that, you know, on the day. Okay, well, we did have one last little video. In fact, we've got sort of 7 minutes. we'll just show it because it's quite a nice little local interest thing. A guy sort of doing his painting of the pier head. Again, feel free to interrupt if you ever want to say anything. So you can see him setting up his easel here. Now he's using a different version to the previous artist. This is what's called a French easel, and it's a pochade box still, but it's got legs attached, which you telescopically move.
Oh, can I get rid of this box? Can I get rid of this box?
Who are you talking to, Barbara? Is it me?
Oh, sorry, no, my technician.
Oh, fine. I'll leave you with your IT tech.
No. Oh, okay. Thanks. Sorry.
Okay, so I'll press play. I'm sorry, this video's got a lot of background music. It's a bit annoying, but we'll see how we get on.
I can't hear it.
We have to be particularly careful today. I think we're at risk of blowing over, but we'll see what happens. The reason we've come here is because I wanted to paint this statue here of Edward VII. I don't know anything about Edward VII, but I was recently on a TV show where I painted this, and they interviewed me doing it, and it was just such a great thing to paint because there's a bit of history in it, although I don't know what it is yet. Got the live bird in the background, and it's just a stationary object that's really interesting that I can paint. So we're going to have another go at this one today. There were a few things last time I didn't do that I'm going to do this time. As usual, I'm going to start with the sketching.
Sorry, I'm just going to stop it there. Do you see how on his easel he's put a layer of cling film?
Oh no! Oh yes, yeah. Oh, on his easel.
Sorry, not the palettes I meant.
Oh right, yeah, yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, it's at a funny angle there, but you see he's put this layer of plastic on. I've never thought of doing that before, but it's actually quite a useful tip. Again, it's probably more of an oil thing, but you could use it with acrylics as well. Makes the end clean up a lot easier, doesn't it? You can just fold it in on itself. Not environmentally friendly, so.
Use greaseproof paper then. A big sheet of greaseproof.
Yeah, that's true. You'd have the same.
Yeah, I use greaseproof.
Yeah,
that's good though, because it will stay put, won't it? The cling film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just fast forward a little bit because he's essentially he's sketching out and then he does his blocking in.
Start adding a few lighter colours in now.
Now he's doing his highlights. And I'll just fast forward because it doesn't really give you much of commentary of what he's doing. Into the background now.
At least he's not making you do negative spaces.
I'll make you do that on Friday.
Well, that's what we did on Saturday, just recovering.
It was just down the way from there, wasn't it, actually?
Yeah, yeah.
By the museum.
We had to not draw the statue and what was between it. Well, mine was in the bin.
Well, it can be so amazing when, if you know, negative painting is so effective, can't it? But it is hard. It's like thinking backwards. It's really difficult. Yeah. This is just a bit where loads of I don't know whether Scousers or tourists, but interrupting. Now he spends a lot of time standing back and looking, having his coffee, which is a massive tip. I don't do this in.
It is working well. I'm pretty pleased with that so far. All the values are down. Just the building. The buildings are challenging, but I'm enjoying it. Toppy done.
Sorry, I pressed the wrong pause there. Can you still see the screen?
Yeah.
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 I was just going to mention here, again, this is a tip I need to remember, is how he's holding his brush. totally.
Oh yeah,
It's hard that though, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is hard, and it seems so unnatural when you first start.
Yeah. Can you do that now, Andrea?
Say that again.
Can you do that okay now? You know,
I'm a bit 50-50 with it. It's not a natural thing. I have to remind myself to do it.
he's holding it like a pencil, isn't he?
Yeah, he is actually. He's sort of like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But at a distance, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I think the trick is it's this length, isn't it? Is leaving.
Yeah.
Because I naturally I would do that. I'd go
That's
right.
right. You think you haven't got control, don't you?
Exactly.
No.
You end up
I
with
haven't.
Neither have I.
Start in a midway point and then work your way backwards.
Yeah, I mean, I think Paul and Tok have both told me that they do an exercise where you have a pencil on the end of a stick and you have to.
Oh, I've done that. Yeah.
Oh right, yeah, yeah.
That's the ultimate lesson.
Yeah.
Right, let's. I don't think there's much left on this. Sorry, I wanted to mention as well, he's using quite a limited palette here, and as a result, it's a very harmonious palette, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
You know, weave together quite well. I think I was trying to look at it on his palette earlier on one of the shots, and I think he's only using 5 colours plus white. So that's a good tip for when you work in alla prima or on plein air, is to just reduce your choices, because you will make more decisive decisions with what you're doing, and you don't get hung up with how to mix something. When you mix a colour, because you've got fewer colours that you're mixing, you can then mix that same colour again. You don't think, oh Christ, I put a tiny bit of that in and a bit of this and the same thing again. So it's quite a good tip if you can keep your palette as tight as you can.
Yeah.
Fast forward a little bit more, because I think it's just more or less. Oh, he put the pigeon on top of the head of the statue.
Oh.
He started with that.
Did he?
He must be a Scouser.
Yeah.
Sounds northern. He does sound Scouse.
He does, doesn't he? I think it's maybe across the water.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know about this guy, to be honest. What's he called? Joshua Griffiths. But I'll write all these down for you.
Oh, I haven't written that one.
How clever is that? Those few strokes just create that image.
Yes.
And it's
yes, and all of a sudden the horse's head has come into focus.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You couldn't see it before, and now you can.
That's right.
Very clever.
And it's just a few strokes, isn't it? It's
yeah.
Yeah.
Render it. It's absolutely brilliant. And the face of the.
Oh, that's great.
There, we'll just leave it on that shot. Yeah, I mean, I've no idea how long he spent on this, but I would say a couple of hours at least.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And he mentioned earlier that he's actually painted this subject before, so bear that in mind, because each time you do the same subject, you learn.
Very good.
So, but it's a lovely painting, isn't it?
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
The colours are really, as I say, very harmonious and calming. I think it's a really nice piece of work. Yeah, so I think that's it really. I was gonna at the end I was just gonna talk to you about that viewfinder and this, but I've done that already. So yeah, there you go. I did a
oh yeah, it is like mine, I think. Yeah.
Oh, look, got Catalyst on there.
Yeah, Catalyst W01.
Oh, Catalyst, yes.
On that edge.
It is. I'll bring it in on Friday, and you can have a look at it and see.
Okay.
I'll try and find it as well, the link for it. So
Right.
I can't remember how much it was now. It wasn't massively cheap, I have to say. I think it was maybe about 10 quid or something. But you know, if it's something that you think you're going to use, then.
So how would you use this, Andrea?
Let me just use something. So I will basically, if imagine this being the canvas, I just like plump it down and get my brush and
right,
like that.
Yeah.
You won't get an exact line because obviously your brush is smushing against it, but it gives you an edge. It just gives you.
But it's better than using a ruler, so you don't get the
Yeah.
It's chunky, so you know when
Yeah.
you ruler, you're going to get it messy, and you might drop it on
Yeah.
your pen.
Yeah.
Usually smudgy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and you can also, if you're working with acrylic or oil, you can use it, probably the shorter edge, to make marks with. You can just.
Oh right.
To get.
I bet B&Q has them, you know. I find a lot of household type things that can be adapted.
I think that's what these were designed for. I think these are for edging on your skirting boards and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
You're absolutely right. It's kind of bulbous, did you see?
Yeah.
Holding it's just easy to grip.
It's easy to grip,
Yeah.
To
get one of them.
There's this thing here, which I think on that photo you can see those little numbers and dashes on the edges. They're the proportions. So
that's a clever idea, that.
Yeah, so it'll say like 8 by 10, and they're quite difficult to read. 12 by 16, and you just set your viewfinder.
Yeah.
To whatever
That's really clever.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's it then. So thank you for coming.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thanks,
Yeah. Been very useful.
Yes.
Andrea.
See you Friday. Thank you.
Andrea.
Yeah.
I won't be there
Could
Friday.
you bring our sketchbooks on Friday? You know, the ones you had for the book?
They're in the drawer, or they might be at Paul's house. But
okay.
Yeah, they're either in the drawer at John Archer Hall. There's like a Lusk drawer.
Okay.
Let me just stop sharing a sec. Sorry. Yeah, but I'll double check if Paul's still got them. Is around this week, so I'll try and grab them off him. But yeah, I will. We'll get.
Okay. Cheers. Thanks.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much again, and
Bye.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you,
Bye.
Andrea.
Take care.
See you
Bye-bye.
then. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Bye.